In last week's Sharp Saturday video, we took a look at a very outdoorsy knife, kind of geared towards dealing with things in the woods, and I'm talking about the Mora Companion Spark. Today we're going to go exactly the opposite direction. We're going to take a look at a knife designed for more tactical type environments. I'm talking about the Tran design Tops I.C.E. Dagger. That stands for in case of emergency. That's what's coming up next here on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose, your home for trustworthy information and gear reviews related to camping, survival, and general preparedness for regular folks. My name's Brian. Thanks for joining me. So the folks at Tops Knives were kind enough to send me a few knives to check out during the Sharp Saturday series, and one of them was this Tran designed I.C.E. Dagger. And I've had the pleasure of being able to hang out with Andy a few times at SHOT Show. He and John from Wingman 115 actually had me on one of their weekly live streams that they were doing when I had just started out. So I kind of feel a debt of gratitude to Andy and John both, just for kind of helping me get started. And I always like Andy's designs. As you may know, that one of my favorite knives ever is the Tahoma Field Knife, which Andy designed, and it is completely opposite in this. It is a very outdoorsy knife. It's kind of intended as a one-tool option, and it rocks the house. I've done a couple videos on that one. You might want to check that one out on the channel. But this is a totally different animal. And Andy is now a law enforcement officer, and he designed this to be used for law enforcement and military and civilian, just kind of as a backup weapon, a self-defense weapon or tool. And it is extremely well thought out, very well made, and I think it's cool. So instead of me standing here rambling on about it, why don't we take you down to the old stump top and get to doing a little bit of knife stuff with this. Now again, this is not an outdoorsy bushcrafty knife, so some of the stuff we're going to do is going to be maybe a little different than we would on a camping type outdoors knife, and some of it will be the same because science. And we're going to do that right after this word from one of our sponsors. This video is sponsored by the folks at Surviveware. Surviveware makes the best, most organized first aid kits I've ever seen. From their small personal size to their larger first aid kit that's perfect for families and groups. They even have a survival first aid kit with added survival gear, just in case. And they recently came out with what I think is the world's first IPX7 waterproof soft first aid kit. You can save 10% on your Surviveware kit by using the coupon code PURPOSE10 at checkout. Okay, here is the Tops I.C.E. Dagger, again designed by Tran, and the I.C.E. stands for in case of emergency. One thing I want to point out right off the bat, like all Tops knives, this one is made in the USA. It features a 3-inch double-edged dagger-style blade of 0.13 inch at the thickest, at least in the middle. Black Cerakoted 1095 steel. The cutting edge is 2.88 inches, so there's a little bit of a sharpening choil on either side here, and a little bit of a hand finger guard here. The overall length of this knife is 7.75 inches. Features a black G10 handle. You'll notice this is a full tang knife. Something else you might notice is pretty cool. Still got some of the oil they put on it to ship it, but it features a kind of a really cool compound grind. So it's really strong at the tip, which you might not see in some double-edged type daggers. So it's really reinforced up at the tip here, almost like a little arrowhead here from the spine up to this point. And then once the tip is penetrated where it needs to go, it thins out so that you can have maximum cutability or stabability. It also has some cutouts you can't see under here for weight reduction and to allow the scales to be removed, so you can do a paracord wrap if you want to thin it up and maybe not have the G10 handle. Kind of like I said, a little micro hand guard here to keep your fingers from sliding up onto the double-edged blade. And then it has a beveled ring pommel for retention, and it also kind of helps aid as an impact weapon. It's got these little bevels right here. You can see those. So anyway, there's that. Let's talk about the sheath, because the sheath is also pretty cool. So it features kind of like a hybrid between a pancake and a taco style sheath. So it's folded from the bottom, so it gives you the strength of a taco style with the versatility of a pancake. You have mounting options on both sides of the sheath, so it snaps in very, very well there. Very good retention. And then also, I didn't mention, by the way, it's got a little bit of jimping right here and here. I'm rambling a little bit, I'm sorry, and a little bit here just to give you a little extra grip, which actually does. And the sheath itself has these really cool, they're calling these beta loops, and they have a unidirectional snap, the pull the dot snap. So if you notice, this is kind of designed set up now for inside the waistband carry. So you slip this down, you put this over your belt. But if you notice, if you're trying to pull it that way, it's designed to not open that way. So you have to pull it from up here, it opens right up, put it on your belt. And the same thing when you snap it back, you can snap it from that side, and it works. So it's just a little extra detail to keep it from, if it gets pulled that way, to keep it from coming undone. You have to intentionally do that to open it. And then you would just slide this behind your belt. And I'll show you that in a minute. Use it for inside the waistband carry. It also comes with a ball chain if you want to use it for a neck knife. You can remove these beta loops very simply just by a Phillips head here. They're little Chicago screws. And you can take those off. You could maybe put an ulti clip here if you want to use an ulti clip. You could. It's just a lot of different options this kind of sheath gives you. Very simple, but very versatile and functional. So there's that. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Okay, the last thing is the knife alone by itself weighs 4.5 ounces, and with the sheath 6.5 ounces. So I'm assuming that means the sheath weighs 2 ounces. And the MSRP on this knife is $190, but the Blade HQ price is $130. So I really like supporting those guys. Nothing against Amazon or anybody else, but I like supporting knife. You know, people that are kind of pro knife, and I really like supporting Tops knives for the same reason, because they're knife people and they're also made in the USA. So they do a really good job. So there's that. Let's do a little bit of knife stuff now. Again, it's not a bushcraft knife or woodcraft knife or whatever terminology you prefer to use for playing in the woods, but it is a knife. So what I thought we'd do first, since I've got my old show notes here, let's just go ahead and mess up the white balance and see how well this thing works. Now, I have not used this at all, so it's brand new, straight out of the box, so to speak. So first we'll do the redneck sharp test, because, you know, why not, right? And it's it's creating yet another bare spot on my arm, so that's pretty good. Let's see how it does on paper. Oh, that's probably not the design intent of this thing. This paper is a little bit flimsy, but not bad. I always see people doing paper tests, and I think, you know, well, pretty much it'll cut paper. But the problem is, you know, it's if the paper gets a little damp, a little humidity, it makes it look like the knife's not sharp. And it's like I'm doing now. And I assure you, this knife is stinking sharp. I mean, it just shaved hair off my arms. So anyway, for what it's worth, there's a paper cut test. Also, for what it's worth, I mean, we might as well do a little bit of like wood stuff, just because, why not? It is a knife, and we're just going to do a little bit of feathers here in this cedar. I know that's not the intent of this thing, but I like doing them, and I always like to kind of see, you know, how a knife does that. For me, it gives me a kind of a benchmark of comparison, because I've cut so many curls, feathers, what do you want to call them. I can kind of, you know, compare how one knife might feel to the other. I will say, like most daggers, especially serious daggers, it's a lot thicker in the middle and it tapers out to the end. This appears to be like a flat grind to the end with a secondary bevel, and then it's got this really cool compound grind on it. Anyway, I'm digressing and mumbling and rambling, so let's just see. Even though it's got a kind of a tactical style blade, it's definitely not a camping style, bushcraft, woodcraft, whatever you want to call it. Yankee, if you're watching this, I know you want to call it woodcraft, but I like to just kind of, for my own comparison, and then I can at least maybe give you my unbiased or opinion on how this compares to other knives for doing this kind of thing. And a little bit different. I'll say what I'm feeling different about it is the fact that it's got this pretty thick center spine. So it's if this spine were back here, you'd have a lot less of a steep angle from here to here, right? But because it's halved, then to get to from this point to this micro edge, you got a sharper angle. So it's a little bit different there, and that's pretty much the way it is, just because of the blade geometry itself. It's not a negative. It's just a reality. The other thing you don't want to do is put your thumb up here and try to work with it. You find you're going to hold it down here. So again, not really what this knife's designed to do. It's a piece of cedar. But let's just do some really hard carving now. I'll say this about a defensive knife. I would never do this with my defensive knife, because what you want for any kind of a defensive knife is for this thing to be as sharp as you can possibly get it, and to leave it, keep it that way. This is not an everyday tool knife. I've got other knives, for example, this Emerson folder that I carry every day, and this is my everyday do stuff knife. This would be a dedicated defensive knife for me, and that means you want the sucker to be sharp as possible all the time, because if, God forbid, you ever have to use this on another fellow human being, and they're probably going to be wearing some clothes, they might be wearing a leather jacket, they might be wearing denim, they might be wearing something heavy, you got to be able to get through that and do some damage quickly so you can stop them. And that's the reality of the situation. As violent and cold and mean and heartless as that may sound, if you have to use this for defensive purposes, then you want it to be effective, and that's what it's designed for. So that's pretty much what the knife, the cutting stuff we're going to do is. What I thought I'd do now is I'm going to show you kind of how this thing could be used as inside the waistband, kind of how these things work, and then we'll get a little science going on here, and we'll wrap this up. Okay, I just want to show you real quickly how to use these straps. Basically, you're going to pop them out from the top, slide this behind your pants, you put these under your belt, like so. Maybe easier to loosen your belt up. If you got a click belt, that's really simple. Tighten your belt back up. Again, with a click belt, really simple if you're not doing it on camera. Okay, then snap these up here like so. From the bottom up, and there we go. So it's in there now. It's not going to come out, and it's under my shirt. You really can't see it, but yet if you need it, it's there. Okay, so like I said, we're going to try to put the old I.C.E. Dagger through the balance, orientation, and rotation device. It's going to look like I'm standing next to the target due to foreshortening. I'm going to be doing it about 13 feet on this one, I think. I'm kind of eyeballing, guesstimating my calibration distance, but like most knives, Tops knives, I think they used to say they absolutely do not warranty their knife against throwing. They don't recommend throwing knives. This is not a throwing knife. This is a self-defense dagger. So you should never ever throw this knife. But in the interest of science, we are going to test the balance. So let's get to it. Doesn't seem to be flipping right for me. But it's getting dirty. This is going to need a bath when I'm finished. Come here, Kuma. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Good boy. Come here. Get back. There you go. Get the notes. Get the notes. Good boy. Man, I'm not doing good with this one at all. One thing's for sure. She takes a licking and keeps on ticking, even if she's not sticking. Dare I tempt fate again? Okay, I'm not going to tempt that fate. We're going to call that one balanced, sort of. Okay, well that was a hopefully reasonably comprehensive and entertaining look at the Tops USA Andy Tran designed I.C.E. Dagger. And in spite of my difficulty getting the calibration done for the balance testing, I did wind up getting a couple of decent test results in here. So again, Tops doesn't recommend throwing this knife. I probably don't recommend throwing this knife. However, once you get it calibrated, it does pretty well. So, but that's not what it's designed for. It's not designed to be a woodcraft, bushcraft, or camping knife. It's really designed to help get you out of a sticky situation by being really sticky. So I do think Andy did a great job on this. This comes from somebody with some experience, not only in using knives for a lot of different situations, but also he's had some pretty significant law enforcement and tactical type training. So Hats off to Andy for coming up with this one, and thanks again to the folks at Tops Knives for sending me this so I can show it to you. And as always, thank you for watching Survival on Purpose. I put out a brand new video every Friday and Saturday, and sometimes random videos throughout the week. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single one, I invite you to go to survivalonpurpose.com/subscribe. Get connected with my weekly email newsletter every week. Pretty much every week. I'll send you an email with links to previous videos. Usually I put a link to one of my earlier videos so you can get a good laugh and see what a doofus I have always been. And occasionally we'll do some subscriber-only stuff throughout the year. So anyway, I really appreciate your support. Once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident, so be prepared. I'll see you next time.